Welcome to PDFRun. In this video, we'll guide you on how to fill out Form 1065. Form 1065, U.S. Return of Partnership Income, is used to report the income of every domestic partnership in U.S. partnerships. File an information return to report their income, gains, losses, deductions, credits, etc. You may get a copy of Form 1065 at the official IRS website. You can also get a ready-to-use, editable, and fillable version here at PDFRun.com. Moving forward. To begin filling out this document, click on the Fill Online button. This will redirect you to PDFRun's online editor. Before starting, please take note that all domestic partnerships must file the IRS Form 1065. This includes limited liability corporations, LLCs, classified as domestic partnerships and headquartered in the U.S. Enter the calendar or tax year beginning in 2021 that you are filing this form for. Enter the name of the partnership. Enter the number, street, and room or suite number of the partnership. Enter the city or town, state or province, country, and zip or foreign postal code of the partnership. Line A. Enter the principal business activity of the partnership. Line B. Enter the partnership's principal product or service. Line C. Enter the partnership's business code number. Line D. Enter the partnership's employer identification number, EIN. Line E. Enter the date that the partnership's business started. Line F. Enter the total assets of the partnership. Line G. Check any of the following boxes that apply to the purpose for filing this form. Initial return, final return, name change, address change, amended return. Line H. Check the appropriate box that indicates which accounting method will be used. You may choose from the following: cash, accrual, other. Specify in the space provided. Line I. Enter the number of Schedule K1 forms attached to this form. Attach one for each person who was a partner at any time during the tax year. Line J. Check the box provided if Schedules C and M3 are attached to this form. Line K. Check box 1 if the partnership aggregated activities for Section 4, 6, 5 at risk purposes, and box 2 if the partnership grouped activities for Section 4, 6, 9 passive activity purposes. Income. Line 1A. Enter the gross receipts or sales. Line 1B. Enter the amount of returns and allowances. Line 1C. Subtract line 1B from line 1A and enter the difference. Line 2. Enter the cost of goods sold. Attach Form 1.1.2.5A to this form. Line 3. Subtract line 2 from line 1C and enter the difference. Line 4. Enter the amount of ordinary income or losses from other partnerships, estates, and trusts and attach the relevant statements to this form. Line 5. Enter the net farm profit or loss and attach Schedule F, Form 1040, to this form. Line 6. Enter the net gain or loss as indicated on Form 4797, Part 2, Line 17, and attach Form 4797 to this form. Line 7. Enter any other income or loss and attach the relevant statements to this form. Line 8. Add lines 3 through 7 and enter the sum. Deductions. Line 9. Enter the salaries and wages paid, less any employment credits. Line 10. Enter the amount of guaranteed payments to partners. Line 11. Enter the cost of repairs and maintenance. Line 12. Enter the costs incurred as a result of bad debts. Line 13. Enter the cost of rent. Line 14. Enter the total cost of taxes and licenses. Line 15. Enter the amount of interest incurred. Line 16A. Enter the amount of depreciation and attach Form 4562 if required. Line 16B. Subtract the amount of depreciation reported on Form 1.1.2.5A and elsewhere on the return from the amount written on line 16A, and enter the difference. Line 17. Enter the cost of depletion. Do not deduct oil and gas depletion. Line 18. Enter the cost of any retirement plans or similar. Line 19. Enter the cost of any employee benefit programs. Line 20. Enter any other deductions not declared above and attach the relevant statements to this form. Line 21. Add the amounts shown on the far right columns of lines 9 through 20 and enter the sum. Line 22. Subtract line 21 from line 8 and enter the difference. Tax and payment. Line 23. Enter the amount of interest under the look-back method for completed long-term contracts, and attach Form 8, 6, 9, 7 to this form. Line 24. Enter the amount of interest under the look-back method for the income forecast method and attach Form 8, 8, 6, 6 to this form. Line 25. Enter the amount of BBAAR imputed under payment due. Line 26. Enter any other taxes not declared above. Line 27. Add lines 23 through 26 and enter the sum. Line 28. Enter the amount of payment to be made. Line 29. If line 28 is smaller than line 27, enter the amount owed. Line 30. If line 28 is greater than line 27, enter the amount of overpayment. Signature. Have the partner or limited liability company member of the partnership that this form is being filed for sign in the space provided and enter the date the form was signed. Check yes if you wish to allow the IRS to discuss this form with the preparer shown below. Otherwise, check no. Paid preparer use only. Enter the name of the preparer. Have the preparer sign the form in the space provided. Enter the date that the preparer signed the form. Check the box provided if the preparer is self-employed. Enter the preparer's preparer tax identification number, PTIN. Enter the name of the firm that the preparer works for, if applicable. Enter the firm's EIN, if applicable. Enter the firm's number, street, city or town, county or state, country, and zip code, if applicable. Enter the preparer's primary phone number. Schedule B. Line 1. Check the appropriate box that indicates what type of entity is filing this form. You may choose one of the following: Domestic General Partnership, Domestic Limited Partnership, Domestic Limited Liability Company, Domestic Limited Liability Partnership, Foreign Partnership, Other, specify in the space provided. Line 2A. If any foreign or domestic corporation, partnership, trust, or tax-exempt organization own, directly or indirectly, an interest of 50% or more in the profit, loss, or capital of the partnership, check yes, and attach Schedule B1 to this form. Otherwise, check no. Line 2B. If any individual or estate directly or indirectly owned an interest in 50% or more in the profit, loss, or capital of the partnership, check yes, and attach Schedule B1 to this form. Otherwise, check no. Line 3A. If the partnership directly or indirectly owned 50% or more of the total voting power of all classes of stock entitled to vote of any domestic or foreign corporation by the end of the tax year, check yes, and enter the following information in the columns below. Name of corporation, employer identification number, if any, country of incorporation, percentage owned in voting stock. Line 3B. If the partnership directly owned 20% or more, or directly or indirectly own an interest of 50% or more in the profit, loss, or capital of any foreign or domestic partnership or in the beneficial interest of a trust, check yes, and enter the following information in the columns below. Name of entity, employer identification number, if any, type of entity, country of organization, maximum percentage owned in profit, loss, or capital. Line 4. Check yes if the partnership satisfies all four of the following conditions. Total receipts for the tax year were less than $250,000. Total assets at the end of the tax year were less than $1 million. Schedules K1 are filed with the return and furnished to the partners on or before the due date for the partnership return. The partnership is not filing and is not required to file Schedule M3. If all four of the above conditions are met, the partnership is not required to complete Schedules L, M1, and M2, Item F on page 1 of Form 1065, or Item L on Schedule K1. Otherwise, check no. Line 5. if the partnership is a publicly traded partnership as defined in Section 4, 6, 9, K, 2, check, yes. Otherwise, check, no. Line 6. If the partnership had any debt that was cancelled, forgiven, or had the terms modified to reduce the principal amount of debt during the tax year, check, yes. Otherwise, check, no. Line 7. Check, yes, if the partnership has or is required to file Form 8918. Otherwise, check, no. Line 8. If at any point during the calendar year of 2021, the partnership held an interest in or a signature or other authority over a financial account in a foreign country, check, yes, and enter the name of the foreign country in the space provided. Otherwise, check, no. Line 9. If the partnership received a distribution from or was the grantor or transferor of a foreign trust, check, yes. The partnership may be required to file Form 3520. Otherwise, check, no. Line 10A. If the partnership is making or has previously made, and did not revoke, a Section 754 election, check, yes. Otherwise, check, no. Line 10B. If the partnership made an optional basis adjustment under Section 743B, or 734B, during this tax year, check, yes, and attach a statement showing the computation and allocation of said basis adjustment. Otherwise, check, no. Line 10C. If the partnership is required to adjust the basis of partnership assets under Section 743B, or 734B, because of a substantial built-in loss or substantial basis reduction, check, yes, and attach a statement showing the computation and allocation of the basis adjustment. Otherwise, check, no. Line 11. Check the box provided if the partnership distributed any property received in a like-kind exchange or contributed such property to another entity. Line 12. Check, yes, if the partnership distributed to any partner a tenancy in common or other undivided interest in partnership property at any time during the tax year. Otherwise, check, no. Line 13. If the box is required to file Form 8858, enter the number of Form 8858 copies attached to this form in the space provided. Line 14. If the partnership has any foreign partners, check, yes, and enter the number of Form 8805 copies filed for this partnership in the space provided. Line 15. Enter the number of Form 8865 copies attached to this form in the space provided. Line 16A. Check, yes, if any payments were made in 2021 that would require Form 1099 to be filed. Otherwise, check, no. Line 16B. If yes was checked in line 16A, check, yes, if you have or will file Form 1099. Otherwise, check, no. Line 17. Enter the number of Form 5471 copies attached to this form. Line 18. Enter the number of partners that are foreign governments under Section 892. Line 19. If the partnership made any payments that would require it to file Forms 1042 and 1042S under Chapter 3 or Chapter 4, check, yes. Otherwise, check, no. Line 20. If the partnership is a specific domestic entity that is required to file Form 8938 for this tax year, check, yes. Otherwise, check, no. Line 21. If the partnership is a Section 721C partnership as defined in Regulation Section 1.721C to 1B 14, check, yes. Otherwise, check, no. Line 22. If the partnership paid or accrued any interest or royalty for which one or more partners are not allowed to make a deduction under Section 267A, check, yes, and enter the total amount of disallowed deductions. Otherwise, check, no. Line 23. If the partnership had an election under Section 163J, for any real property trade or business or any farming business in effect during the tax year, check, yes. Otherwise, check no. Line 24. Check yes if the partnership satisfies one or more of the following conditions. The partnership owns a pass-through entity with current, or prior year carryover, excess business interest expense. The partnership's aggregate average annual gross receipts for the 3 tax years preceding the current tax year are more than $26 million and the partnership has business interest. The partnership is a tax shelter and the partnership has business interest expense. Line 25. If the partnership is attaching Form 8996 to certify as a qualified opportunity fund, check yes, and enter the amount from Form 8996, line 15 in the space provided. Otherwise, check no. Line 26. Enter the number of foreign partners subject to Section 864C. As a result of transferring all or a portion of an interest in the partnership or of receiving a distribution from the partnership. Make sure to complete Schedule K3 for each foreign partner subject to Section 864C on a transfer or distribution. Line 27. If there were any transfers between the partnership and its partners subject to the disclosure requirements of Regulation Section 1.707-8, check yes. Otherwise, check no. Line 28. If, since December 22, 2017, a foreign corporation directly or indirectly acquires substantially all of the properties constituting a trade or business of the partnership, and the ownership percentage for purposes of Section 7.8.7.4 was greater than 50%, check yes, and list the ownership percentage by vote and value. Otherwise, check no. Line 29. If the partnership is electing out of the centralized partnership audit regime under Section 6.2.2.1b, check yes, and enter the total written on Schedule B2, Part 3, Line 3 in the space provided. Otherwise, check no, and complete the designation of partnership representative as outlined below. Designation of partnership representative, PR. Enter the name of the PR. Enter the following information on U.S. address details of the PR. Number, street, city or town, state or province, zip code or foreign postal code. Enter the PR's phone number. PR representative name, if PR is an entity. If the PR is an entity, enter the name of the representative sent. Enter the following information on the representative of the PR's address. Number, street, city or town, state or province, zip code or foreign postal code, U.S. phone number of designated individual. Enter the representative's phone number. Schedule K. Partners' distributive share items. Income or loss. Line 1. Enter the amount of ordinary business income or loss. Line 2. Enter the amount of net rental real estate income or loss. Line 3A. Enter the amount of gross rental income or loss. Line 3B. Enter the total of any expenses from other rental activities and attach the relevant statements. Line 3C. Subtract line 3B from line 3A, and enter the difference. Line 4. Enter the following amounts of guaranteed payments. Line 4A. Services. Line 4B. Capital. Line 4C. Add lines 4A and 4B and enter the sum. Line 5. Enter the amount of interest income. Line 6. Enter the amounts for each of the following dividends and dividend equivalents. Line 6A. Ordinary dividends. Line 6B. Qualified dividends. Line 6C. Dividend equivalents. Line 7. Enter the amount of royalties earned. Line 8. Enter the amount of net short-term capital gain or loss and attach Schedule D, Form 1065 to this form. Line 9A. Enter the amount of net long-term capital gain or loss and attach Schedule D, Form 1065 to this form. Line 9B. Enter the amount of collectibles, 28%, gained or lost. Line 9C. Enter the amount of unrecaptured Section 1.2.5.0 gain and attach the relevant statement. Line 10. Enter the amount of net Section 1.2.3.1 gain or loss. Attach Form 4797 to this form. Line 11. Enter any other income or loss not already declared above. Deductions. Line 12. Enter the amount of deduction from Section 1, 7, 9 and attach Form 4, 5, 6, 2 to this form. Line 13A. Enter the amount of contributions made. Line 13B. Enter the amount of expenses on investment interest. Line 13C. Enter the following information on any Section 59. E. 2. Expenditures. 1. Type of expenditure. 2. Amount of expenses. Line 13D. Enter any other deductions. Self-employment. Line 14A. Enter the amount of net earnings or losses from self-employment. Line 14B. Enter the amount of gross farming or fishing income. Line 14C. Enter the amount of gross non-farm income. Credits. Line 15A. Enter the amount of low-income housing credit. Line 15B. Enter the amount of low-income housing credit. Line 15C. Enter the amount of qualified rehabilitation expenditures from rental real estate, and attach Form 3, 4, 6, 8 to this form. Line 15D. Enter the amount of any other rental real estate credits. Line 15E. Enter the amount of any other rental credits. Line 15F. Enter any other credits not already included above. International transactions. Line 16. Attach Schedule K2, Form 1, 0, 6, 5, to this form. Check the box provided to indicate that you are reporting items of international tax relevance. Alternative minimum tax, AMT, items. Line 17A. Enter the amount of Post 1, 9, 3, 6 depreciation adjustment. Line 17B. Enter the adjusted gain or loss. Line 17C. Enter the amount of depletion other than from oil and gas. Line 17D. Enter the amount of gross income earned from oil, gas, and geothermal properties. Line 17E. Enter the amount of deductions on oil, gas, and geothermal properties. Line 17F. Enter any other AMT items and attach the relevant statements to this form. Other information. Line 18A. Enter the amount of tax-exempt interest income. Line 18B. Enter any other tax-exempt income. Line 18C. Enter the amount of non-deductible expenses. Line 19A. Enter the amount of distributions made of cash and marketable securities. Line 19B. Enter the amount of distributions of other properties. Line 20A. Enter the amount of investment income. Line 20B. Enter the amount of investment expenses. Line 20C. Enter any other relevant items and amounts and attach the relevant statements to this form. Line 21. Enter the total amount of foreign taxes paid or accrued. Analysis of net income or loss. Line 1. Add lines 1 through 11 of Schedule K and subtract from the result the sum of lines 12 through 13D and 21, and enter the result. Line 2. Enter the following analyses for each column for A. General partners and B. Limited partners. The columns that must be filled out are as follows. 1. Corporate. 2. Individual, active. 3. Individual, passive. 4. Partnership. 5. Exempt organization. 6. Nominee, other. Line 1. Cash. Enter the cash balances at the beginning and end of the tax year. For the rest of the items in this section, make sure to enter the appropriate balances of the given items at the beginning and end of the tax year. Line 2A. Trade notes and accounts receivable. Enter the balances of trade notes and accounts receivable. Line 2B. Less allowance for bad debts. Enter the balances of the amount of allowance reduced to account for bad debts. Line 3. Inventories. Enter the balances of inventories. Line 4. U.S. government obligations. Enter the balances of any U.S. government obligations. Line 5. Tax-exempt securities. Enter the balances of tax-exempt securities. Line 6. Other current assets. Enter the balances of any other current assets and attach the relevant statements to this form. Line 7A. Loans to partners. Enter the balances of any loans given to partners or persons related to partners. Line 7B. Mortgage and real estate loans. Enter the balances of any mortgage and real estate loans. Line 8 Other investments. Enter the balances of any other investments made and attach the relevant statements to this form. Line 9A. Buildings and other depreciable assets. Enter the balances of buildings and other depreciable assets. Line 9B. Less accumulated depreciation. Enter the balances of the amount of depreciation accumulated. Line 10A. Depletable assets. Enter the balances of any depletable assets. Line 10B. Less accumulated depletion. Enter the balances of the amount of depletion accumulated. Line 11 Land. Enter the balances of any land owned by the partnership, net of any amortization. Line 12A. Intangible assets. Enter the balances of any amortizable intangible assets owned. Line 12B. Less accumulated amortization. Enter the balances of the amount of amortization accumulated. Line 13 Other assets. Enter the balances of any other assets owned, and attach the relevant statements to this form. Line 14 Total assets. Enter the balances of the total of all assets owned. Liabilities and capital. Line 15 Accounts payable. Enter the balances of accounts payable. Line 16 Mortgages, notes, and bonds payable in less than 1 year. Enter the balances of any mortgages, notes, and bonds payable in less than 1 year. Line 17 Other current liabilities. Enter the balances of any other current liabilities and attach the relevant statements to this form. Line 18 All non-recourse loans. Enter the balances of all non-recourse loans. Line 19A. Loans from partners. Enter the balances of loans from partners, or persons related to partners. Line 19B. Mortgages, notes, and bonds payable in 1 year or more. Enter the balances of any mortgages, notes, and bonds payable in 1 year or more. Line 20 Other liabilities. Enter the balances of any other liabilities and attach the relevant statements to this form. Line 21 Partners' capital accounts. Enter the balances of partners' capital accounts. Line 22 Total liabilities and capital. Enter the total balances of liabilities and shareholders' equity. Schedule M1 Reconciliation of income, loss, per books with income, loss, per return. Line 1. Enter the amount of net income or loss. Line 2. Enter the income included on Schedule K, lines 1, 2, 3C, 5, 6A, 7, 8, 9A, 10, and 11 that has not been recorded in the books this year. Make sure to itemize them. Line 3. Enter the amount of guaranteed payments, not including health insurance. Line 4. Enter the amount of expenses recorded on the books this year that were not included on Schedule K, lines 1 through 13D and 21. Make sure to itemize them. Line 4A. Enter the amount of depreciation. Line 4B. Enter the amount spent on travel and entertainment. Line 5. Add lines 1 through 4 and enter the sum. Line 6. Enter the amount of income not recorded on the books this year not included on Schedule K, lines 1 through 11. Make sure to itemize them. Line 6A. Enter the amount of tax-exempt interest. Line 7. Enter the amount of deductions included on Schedule K, lines 1 through 13D, and 21, not charged against book income this year. Make sure to itemize them. Line 7A. Enter the amount of depreciation. Line 8. Add lines 6 and 7 and enter the sum. Line 9. Subtract line 8 from line 5 and enter the difference. Schedule M2 Analysis of Partners' Capital Accounts. Line 1. Enter the balance of the account at the beginning of the year. Line 2A. Enter the amount of capital contributed in cash. Line 2B. Enter the amount of capital contributed through money. Line 3. Enter the amount of net income or loss. Line 4. Enter any other increases. Make sure to itemize each amount and use a separate sheet of paper as needed. Line 5. Add lines 1 through 4 and enter the sum. Line 6A. Enter the amount of distributions made in cash. Line 6B. Enter the amount of distributions made in property. Line 7. Enter any other decreases. Make sure to itemize each amount and use a separate sheet of paper as needed. Line 8. Add lines 6 and 7 and enter the sum. Line 9. Subtract line 8 from line 5 and enter the difference. Review, and double-check if all entered information is correct and accurate. Once finished, click on the Done button to save, download, and print Form 1065. To learn more about this form or find other fillable templates, visit www.pdfrun.com.